Welcome to this edition of the Lily Grove Youth Department Church School Review. Our lesson for this week, February the 20th, is entitled False Charges. During this quarter, the theme has been justice, law, and history. And in our political world today, these terms mean a whole lot: justice, law, and history. And as Christians, we ought to be concerned about justice for all. We ought to be concerned about good laws for everyone and that all obey the law. And for history, everybody's included in history, and it should be revered by all. Our quarterly theme has been justice, law, and history. And in our political setting today, these terms should mean a whole lot to every young Christian. It should mean justice for all, the pursuit of justice for all. It should mean laws that are obeyed by all and that are good for all. And with regard to history, we should include everyone as a party of history, as well as everyone needs to revere history. The last week's lesson, coming from the book of Ezra, was entitled Law and Order. This week, our topic is false charges from the book of Job. Job is found in the Old Testament scripture right before Psalm and right before the Proverbs. It's located in a section of the Bible called wisdom literature. I have a challenge for you. If you can identify for me why Job is located in the wisdom literature, I have a very special treat for you. So the first 10 of you who can respond by email to Sister Chandrea Thompson, telling her why Job is located in the wisdom literature section of the Bible, we have a very special treat for you. This week, false charges. Question: how would you feel if you were falsely charged? Or the reverse of that, how would you feel having charged someone falsely? That fits our world today, youngsters. That's a very realistic state of mind today, where people feel like they're being charged falsely. Well, in our In Focus lesson today, we meet two girls. We meet Kendra and we meet Simone. Kendra has an unknown illness, and this illness has her missing school. This illness has her no longer able to compete on the soccer team, and it's also affecting the entire family. Her parents are having to miss work to help address her sickness. As well, the family savings are minimized because they're trying to pay medical bills. Kendra's in a very bad state. She's feeling emotionally down. And during those times, we really need a friend. Well, Kendra has a friend, and that friend is Simone. Well, Simone shows up just in the nick of time of Kendra's depression and her misery. What can a best friend say to a dear hurting friend that would drive her into a deeper emotional sickness? I'm glad you asked. Simone highlights that Kendra's illness is probably all her own fault. Wow, what words to somebody who's already hurting. She charges Kendra falsely. She charges her falsely. I have a question for you. Have you ever been wounded by a friend? Or have you ever tried to heal only to successfully wound or injure someone else? We've all been there. I have a little nugget for you this week. Carry this around. Wisdom can be seen through silence as well as be seen through our speech, because truthfully, our words can really hurt. In the end of this In Focus, after Kendra has actually considered the misguided words of Simone about her own role in her suffering, it's Kendra's mother who walks in with words that recover Kendra's awareness that her family holds no feelings of blame about Kendra's sickness. She assures Kendra that God alone can be trusted and that he will secure the family through this sickness. In the text today, which is titled Bildad Misunderstands God's Justice, the scripture starts in Job chapter 8, verses 1 through 10, and verses 20 through 22. Let's take a moment to read that verse of scripture.
Job chapter 8, verses 1 through 10, verses 20 through 22. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, How long wilt thou speak these things? And how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doth God pervert judgment? Or doth the Almighty pervert justice? If thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away from their transgression, if thou wouldest seek unto God betimes, and make thy supplication to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, surely now he would awake for thee, and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosperous. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. Shall not thy teach thee, and tell thee, and utter words out of their heart? Behold, God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers, till he fill thy mouth with laughing, and thy lips with rejoicing. They that hate thee shall be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked shall come to naught.
Have you ever been given bad advice? If only we'd follow the Food Drug Administration's guidelines to test before marketing. With our words, if we just consider before we open our mouths to share, then we find fewer situations of conflict. Unfortunately, most of us have been on both sides of giving and receiving bad advice. Bildad believes that Job's suffering is actually his disobedience illuminated, but that's not the case. Job's suffering is not the former at all, but rather is divinely invoiced. God himself has approved Job's suffering. But Bildad's blame is false and pointing in the wrong direction. When we see others facing unthinkable sufferings, we mustn't be anxious to define and diagnose their conditions. Sometimes God is testing us in order that we have fresh and transformational testimonies of how God himself can still be trusted regardless of the size or the length of our personal trials. I hope through your review of the lesson today, that you'll realize that we don't have to be Bildad. We don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes God's up to big things in people's lives that they have yet to discover. Let God have his way in your life. And remember, silence can be a sign of support, not always our speech. Have a great week and join us for next week's edition of the weekly Church School Bible Study.